And today I have an exciting guest with me today, Mr. Darren Bailey. And Darren,
Hello.
hey, Darren Bailey, good morning. And Darren Bailey, everybody, has worked on some incredible projects as a stuntman, as a voiceover actor, as a mocap artist, and all of these things. And he's worked on projects that people I've talked to people in this industry, and they talk about these different projects that they've worked on, and I know there are people that would sell their children to work on some of these projects that you've been on. I mean, Jurassic Park, Ready Player One, Star Wars type projects. So that's absolutely amazing. And Darren, how are you doing?
Good. I'm good. Thanks, man. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I'm excited to get into some of the specifics about different things I've been on and what capacity, because I wear a lot of different hats in the industry. So it's not always the exact same kind of thing that I'm doing. And some of it's more behind the scenes and some of it's, right there in front of the camera. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that it was really great to learn a little bit more by watching through like most of your videos on your playlist, because it's so cool to be able to see a career transform over. I think that was probably about what is 2017? I think it was 2007 actually, right? To
Yeah.
2022 or your YouTube videos.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I started doing short films around 2006. So yeah.
Man, yeah. That, I mean, one of the first, I mean, we've got one of the first stunt people on YouTube, like here, right here. One of the first. I think YouTube started like 2004, and it didn't really start picking up for like
Yeah.
random video until like later. So legend right here, right? Hey, oh, cool. And I got to, and what I really loved about those videos, watching the transformation. It seemed earlier you did like short films and you were more into the acting, and over time you just built skill upon skill upon skill, and now you've got this very interesting career. So can you go into a little bit in depth about just like that transformation?
Yeah. So, acting is something that I've always studied ever since I was a kid. Started doing musical theater as a kid and went to college and studied theater and art and music there. When I graduated college, I just knew I wanted to work in film. I really got exposed to some short film stuff during my college education. Moved to Los Angeles, like you do. You got to go where the work is. And it wasn't long before some friends of mine from college who had also moved out here wanted to just make some short little like fight sequences, some testing out some camera work, some visual effects work, use what little martial arts experience we had underneath our belt to make some fun things. And this team ended up being called Thousand Pounds Action Company, but it started this kind of YouTube content creating atmosphere that I started really thriving in. These videos that we made went viral. We got more audience. We got more working stunt people and martial artists who wanted to work with our company. And that kind of viral exposure just created more opportunity, more doors open. People started knowing my name. I found that I was looking less for work and work was more coming to me by association of this team that I co-founded. And yeah, so it snowballed into something that now has become a really cool niche in the indie filmmaking community out here in LA, which is pretty big. I'm not working on studio films, to be honest. Most of the stuff that I'm doing is just constant independent short film, web series, music video, just all the small things that are being made that are actually what a lot of this city is sustained on.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned something interesting there of this idea of, being on YouTube. So like when you first got started on YouTube, I mean, it's fairly new. Did you think it was going to be as big as it was? I mean, there's two separate parts I think that we've got here is like, you got this, obviously the entertainment side of things and the stunt side of things, but like the technology side, I mean, did you think YouTube was going to be as huge? Like, what were your thoughts on
No,
that
I mean,
early?
like there's even like the word viral was new, right? So there were certain videos like shoes and the like the Britney crying video.
Yeah, I
There's
remember
all
those.
that kind of stuff that was like early YouTube that we knew that it was viral, but maybe had a word for it, but it wasn't a big thing. So YouTube was just a platform that was free for anybody to upload videos onto. So that was really it. It was just a means to be able to share a link to friends who weren't in your immediate social circles, and that was it. There was no expectation that what you were doing was going to go viral in that sense, so yeah, for us it was just a place for us to showcase our talent and come back and look at it more for us, to be honest, and maybe share it with some stunt friends or something. But it became very noticeable in 2011. We released a short fan film called Naruto Shippuden Dreamers Fight. It was a little fan film based on the Naruto universe. And we debuted it at Anime Expo at the LA Convention Center in 2011. And we were given this room. This sat about 300. We showed up early, set up everything. We didn't think anybody knew who we were. And maybe it was just because of the brand and at that convention, but they had like 500-600 people that were lined up to see this thing. They had to turn people away. They said it was the most exciting event that they had like there in years. It was just an explosive energy of like happiness from these fans they're either going to rip you apart for touching their characters, or they're going to love you if you do it right. And luckily ours was the latter. And it was this moment where you felt a little bit like a celebrity walking out of the room, and it was just this exciting time where we said, yeah, we're on to something. We need to keep doing this stuff because clearly we're in a lane that isn't being tapped by Hollywood right now. So let's keep going with this momentum. And
That's
yeah.
that sounds pretty great. So just get an idea. I mean, you say so you had a pretty, what was that team like? I'm guessing there was a team involved.
The team was a mix of mostly martial artists and stunt people, a filmmaker, like editor, visual effects. His name's Chris Cowan. Chris Cowan is kind of like the mastermind behind all of the visuals that you see and putting everything together. And the rest of the team was mostly just the talent. We had a couple writers that were on the team. There's about 10 people in total. And the videos that we would put out was just a mix of just grabbing different people from the team, whoever made the most sense to work for whatever that video idea was. So I was in a lot of earlier stuff. And then as better talents came on, better martial artists and stunt, it's like, yeah, put those guys in front of the camera. I'm happy to like be on more of a producery level for this kind of stuff. But yeah, in 2013, it's just luckily the exposure from that created a lot of avenues where we kind of split up because we all individually started getting some measure of success. We couldn't just meet in each other's houses and film something in the backyard anymore. We had to make an actual career out of it. So it did its job. It served its purpose to create that stepping stone into the more professional side of the industry.
Yeah, that's so cool. And like, this is like the evolution. I mean, I love that story because it's like the evolution of, various careers in entertainment. We always hear about like tech kind of getting started in the garage or something, but, these are like different multiple careers. Cause, I guess in tech, you build the company and the whole company revolves around just like one product or multiple products, but here it's multiple careers evolving out of like one thing into many different places. And I've seen some of the people that you've worked with, and it's absolutely amazing, the relationships that you've built out here. So two things. I mean, first was this idea you said from 2007 to 11. So I think it's pretty cool that so you would say like it was like a 4-year time span between when you first started launching videos and then that huge Naruto video success, that fan success.
Yeah, the 1,000 Pounds formed in 2010. So I was already out here. I moved out in 2008. And so I was out here for a couple of years before we made our first video. And then the team was around from 2010 to like 2013. So yeah, we only had like 2.5 to 3 years of actually making content that was blowing up at the time.
Nice. And for you, you have had the opportunity to work on these huge projects. I read your Voyage article and everything. So can you share a little bit? I mean, you mentioned like, oh, you only work on mostly short films, but like, yeah. I mean, you've got some huge brands behind you that you work on. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah. So I guess what I mean when I say that, like, I also have a day job that's in visual effects. I'm not a visual effects artist. I'm more of a supporting staff. So I'm what's called an operations coordinator, facilities coordinator, just kind of running the behind the scenes at the actual VFX studio, making sure that the producers and the artists have what they need to be successful. And every once in a while, they'll throw me a bone and put my name up in the credits. You know, I have a few Marvel credits up on screen, which is always cool to like see your name on, but I'm not physically like working on the film. So it's a little misleading because like IMDb, you know, breaks down visual effects and there's uncredited stuff. But then there's this stuff that's like I'm actively producing and engaging and acting in, and we're doing stunt work in, and most of that's on the short film side. So that's where my bread and butter comes from.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like more quick, like viral video stunt type stuff.
Yeah, it used to be that, and now it's transitioned. After the whole like YouTube fame kind of thing, it was just more, I didn't need that anymore. That wasn't a push. I never set out to be a YouTube celebrity or anything. I just wanted to be a good filmmaker. I wanted to be a good actor. And so I just found different pockets of people who were making content that I really responded to, people who I thought maybe would be a next great filmmaker. And, you know, I wanted to attach myself early on so that we can all kind of have to come up together. So that's kind of what it's like for me now, while I'm still working a day job that I've had for 9+ years. You know, I find time that I can still make short content with friends, and it tends to be more of like the festival circuit, award worthy type of short work. You know, maybe it'll lead to some bigger things, but yeah, you know, I'm happy with the stuff that I have been attached to.
Yeah, and I've also seen, you know, when I get to work on set, sometimes I definitely see. I don't want to say like, oh yeah. So I guess the best way to put this is like the more experienced, you know, stunt people. They're not always doing the stunts. They're helping to coordinate, helping to, you know, make the safety, everything safe on set. And you know, they usually have super young dudes doing, you know, the flying through the air from the
Sure.
from the things.
Yeah, they're not broken yet, so they can do all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I've seen you do some really fun stuff, but out of curiosity, so like, can you share a little bit about, I guess, doing many things within the industry? Because I read your Voyager article and it was talking about how, you know, you started as an actor and all that, and then you also took on some VR work, voiceover work, and I think you did VR. Was it for Star Wars or Jurassic Park? I think. Or...
Yeah, Star Wars.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Well, you and I, you know, we met on, it was Sarah London's Wildness short film. I was coming to a fitting, and I thought you were maybe like an EPK photographer, or
yeah, I was just doing photography on
yeah,
that.
Yeah. So we met there, and that was a project. You know, that's an example of something where I was contacted. I think it's just a recommended friend of a friend situation. I didn't know Sarah, and she reached out to be a stunt coordinator for this one little fight sequence that she had in this thing. The actor at the time that we were planning for, that I was going to be meeting and teaching this choreography to, dropped out at the last second, and we were just on such a time crunch. She had me send in my own audition video. I wasn't planning on coordinating myself. You don't always do that, but it felt like a situation where I could handle it. Came onto set, did coordinating and acted in that role. And then now I have this, you know, very close relationship with Sarah, I think just for being able to wear multiple hats and kind of run the show and even like direct that sequence in particular, just because Sarah didn't handle action before. It was all new to her. So that's where the confidence comes in of, okay, I can do this, I can handle it, I can run a set, let me make this work. So that's, you know, yeah, that's just an example of multiple hats coming into one thing. When it comes to like the Star Wars kind of stuff, I started training in motion capture in 2017 or 2018 with a group out here called the MoCap Vaults. They are also based in London, Toronto. We have classes in Atlanta and New York as well. And it's just kind of like the premier mocap education place. Motion capture is just a really cool form of acting. It's that kind of, it's, as a theater actor, it feels like doing theater in the round because your whole body's being recorded at all times. It incorporates voiceover. You really have to be aware of what your face is doing. It's all imagination because you don't have costumes or sets. You're wearing these like lycra pajamas with, you know, little tracking balls all over you. It's very unflattering. And so I just really loved working in that thing, and I got the opportunity to audition for this Vader Immortal Star Wars VR series game and create a character. And that was a situation where somebody had already recorded the voice, actor named Steve Bloom. You might know him as like the voice of Spike on Cowboy Bebop. And so he was the voice of this character. We shot at Lucasfilm at ILM in San Francisco, which was just amazing because that's like the god level place that I've always wanted to go and see props from, you know. That shaped my entire love of this industry. So to be there was a dream. And but yeah, they play the audio. It's called mime to pre-record. You are listening to audio that's being played in the space, and then you are creating the movement and trying to match it up as best as you can to the audio that you're hearing. But you're still creating a character. And it was a new character at the time called Admiral Carius. He was kind of a new villain in this Star Wars universe. So it was neat to be able to work with the animation director and the team and, you know, build a character from the ground up and work on fight choreography on that and stunts and play stormtroopers getting killed and, you know, a whole bunch of different stuff. It was neat. But the experience of just being at Lucasfilm,
amazing, right?
Yeah, to have your first motion capture job be Star Wars and in the Star Wars canon was pretty impressive. That's a very pinch myself moment.
I bet. And okay, so like, I mean, that's pretty cool. And in terms of the work itself, like the work of being that mocap artist and already having the voice in it, did you have to like talk to the original voice actor and kind of get a feel for how they kind of imagine things, or was it just like the director just like, hey, Darren, make this happen?
No. So basically the audio that Steve recorded, that's it. That's, you know, they paid him his money. He did his job, and he did such a great job creating a rich feel. You understood tonally exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Now, what they did have on set is they had a sound engineer who would, let's say there's 2 lines, right? And maybe there's 3 seconds of space, but my character needs to say the first line on this end of the hallway and the second line 15 feet away at the other end of a hallway. I don't have enough time to walk that time. So a sound engineer can separate and space the audio and make minor adjustments to timing so that it can work best for the character needs. So there were times that we did a lot of that where it just felt more natural doing something else. But as far as like the speed and the intonation of the lines, I mean, it is what it is. So it's just up on me to still memorize those lines and do the best I can to gesture at the appropriate times, you know, when it makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. And this is so interesting because, like, you know, in terms of what you said, like your first mocap event, I mean, if I was to not know much about you and you're just like, yeah, I do short films and then I mocapped on Star Wars, like it'd just be like a huge jump there. I'd be like, what? Like I could just make short films and become like a mocap artist. But in reality, that probably required a lot more training than just, you know, making some short films. So can you share a little bit about like what trainings you did that makes you feel like you qualified during the casting directors might have saw in you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was because I was already training at the mocap vaults. And at the time, one of our instructors, TJ Storm, who had already been cast as Darth Vader in that game, they reached out to him. He's a prominent motion capture performer. And they reached out to him and said, hey, we have this other role and a couple other things we need to sprinkle in. Do you know anybody who can do stunts, but is also a really good actor? Some people are really great stunt performers, but they're not the best, you know, with acting. They can get set on fire and jump off a building, but you put a script in their hands and they start shaking. So he said, oh, I got this guy, Darren, who I've been training with, and I think he'd be a good fit. I know he's a solid actor and obviously he's been handling some stunt stuff. So I met with TJ, we filmed an audition, did some like bow staff work, just some basic things, some walk cycles that we could then present to the casting director. So ultimately they still made the choice, but it came on TJ's recommendation. Luckily I got picked, and then was there working on set with TJ and the rest of the team. Yeah, so I'm thankful for that support, but it was also because I had put in the training for stunts, my whole life training for acting, being in that right motion capture class at that time to meet somebody who was going to be working on something. So yeah, it was just a series of events that led to that. I wouldn't have had that outreach, directly from Lucasfilm if I hadn't done the other training,
Right on. Yeah. Nice. And okay, so you did some mocap in Star Wars, and I mean, one thing that I would love to hear more about is the work that you did on Ready Player One. Now I know I think you weren't a stunt person on there, right? But you did.
No, I was just this is another example of that was a film that the company I work for, Stereo D. We do stereoscopic 3D conversion. So we take 2D films, we make them into 3D. We do pretty much all the Marvel films, all the Jurassic Park films, a lot of pretty much all Spielberg and James Cameron's films. And so I was an operations coordinator working on Ready Player One. I was like, I got Spielberg tea when he would come into to do daily reviews, so there wasn't a whole lot.
Not just anyone gets some tea though. So
no, yes. Steven Spielberg, he likes peppermint tea, just so so that was, I didn't have any creative say on that. I'm just on the sidelines. It's a cool little like credit to have, but I didn't do the physical work on that stuff. So
yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, that's still like an amazing movie.
I got to meet Steven Spielberg on that project, so that's yeah.
I'm not
gonna complain about that.
Just the other day, I was driving for Uber, and there was a producer there that helped me get my original SAG Union cards, because like I worked on episodes that he was producing like 4 or 5 years ago. So like that was kind of neat, just to be able to do that for the producer that helped me, fulfill like a goal of mine. So, things like that I think are interesting,
Yeah, the Star Wars project is where I got my union card as well. I was already eligible from a few years ago, but when you work on small projects, you don't need to necessarily be union. Depends on how much. If you're going to be working commercials and TV and film, then yeah, you probably should. But based on the career I was having, I was like, I'm fine doing non-union work. It doesn't matter. And then that project was like, you have to be union if you're going to work on this Star Wars thing. And luckily, what they were paying totally covered the cost of what it would be for me to join the union anyway. So it was like a no-brainer, but
yeah. And the way you said that, it sounds like it was a lot. Like, does that give...
it was 5 days of work, and you get paid your SAG rate. So
yeah, but
it basically, that project paid for all the motion capture classes that I had paid for to train, and my SAG union dues in that one fell swoop. So
that's so great. And one thing that I really thought was awesome that the producer had said, or that like we had discovered in conversation, is, I mean, he's obviously worked on some really big projects over these, past like 5-6 years. Cause I think he started his career a little bit earlier than as a writer, but a lot of shows that you would recognize. I just don't know if you would want me sharing them right now. So I haven't mentioned his name or anything, but it was like, he was like, you're always hustling, right? Like I would think of the producer, and he's like one job to the next, right? One job to the next. He's already got his next thing. But he was like talking about how, he still has to, he has a contract ending, and he still has to, go seek out that next contract. And then there's just this idea of hustling bigger, like he started off doing smaller projects, and now he's gotten more and more responsibility, and it's just hustling bigger. And it sounds like, and the reason why I brought that up is because like I hear about your career, what your some of the career choices you've gone through in terms of like training, and then short films, and then making that decision to go from just non-union to working on a Star Wars like VR. That's so cool. It's just so interesting to think like that's like that step of just hustling bigger, I guess.
My whole entire career has been nothing but hustling. I've never had representation, which that surprises people at all. Like everything that I've done has all just been my own talent, but then relying on a lot of friends who are making stuff and being very proactive about saying, I want to be included in your thing. How can I help? How can I be of service? I'm not the vain person who needs to be in front of the camera. I'm happy to work behind the camera. I understand that it's all networking. You never know who is going to be making something else. And if you're an actor, especially, it's not just that you need to be talking to actors. That's a lot of times going to be your competition. You need to talk to all the crew people. Everybody working on a film, the boom op is like, has their own projects in mind that they're making. And it's good to just network and talk to people. Hey, what kind of things are you doing? If you ever need a helping hand, please reach out. You do that to, hundreds of people over the time. You start being a person that people want to call on. And of course you have to, deliver when the time comes for you to do whatever it is that you put yourself out there to. But yeah, just being a kind, supportive person who's willing to help is for me. That's been what's I feel is giving me the most success.
Yeah, that's totally some super wisdom there because, for those of people who have not worked in entertainment or anything, just realizing that when you're on set, right, like there's so many moving pieces behind and there's so many different types of people, and they're all like just some free time and things like that. And you have so much time to just like have a chat and conversation and to like meet these interesting people from the boom mic to not so much like the producers and like the directors, but like, different PAs who are starting to build their careers, or even stunt people are, often have some time that you could chat with too. So definitely some cool stuff there. And with that, to get an idea, I mean, what sort of projects are you working on nowadays?
Right now I'm doing more like producing stuff. So I produce a lot of like horror films, kind of psychological, dramatic, suspense horror stuff. So there's a team called the directors are Sean Temple and Sarah Wisner, and they write a bunch of stuff with Home Body Pictures is the name of their production company. We did a film called Water Horse, which kind of made the rounds at a lot of really popular genre film festivals a couple years ago, places like Fantastic Fest and Beyond Fest, and it gave us some notoriety, and they've just been a team that I've kind of like latched myself onto. We had a recent really successful Seed and Spark crowdfunding campaign for our next horror thing that we're going to be shooting in March in Vermont, because we need a bunch of snowfall for that. Sarah London, who we were talking about earlier, she wrote a really great horror film that we already shot all the exteriors for. We still have to schedule a weekend that we shoot the interiors, but that's called A Prayer for My Father, and that's I'm producing that one as well. Yeah, so
Nice.
Those are the main things, and then I've just been doing a ton of writing. So I'm a freelance writer. Actors reach out to me to write if they need like scenes or monologues for their reels, let's say, that's original content. They're not just recycling something that's been on TV or on stage or whatever. I tailor write original content that they can make and own. And I've been doing that since 2020. And so hundreds and hundreds of scenes later, I'm still doing that. That's taken up a good chunk of time as well.
Yeah, and writing and stories is ultimately the basis of all this creativity and all of entertainment, really. So with all of that, I guess I'd like to also wrap up with some words of wisdom from you. And the question to hopefully get that is, earlier you mentioned how you didn't necessarily need to become a union to get all of these amazing, great projects. You have had such a great career without all of that. So words of wisdom for somebody who's like, maybe sort of intimidated, but they maybe love the industry, instead of just can anybody do it? What would your words of wisdom be for like, who should definitely give it a go?
If you are passionate about anything, I mean, I'll keep this industry related, but you can transfer this to a lot of whatever your profession is. If you're passionate about something, you need to create the opportunity to pursue that. You cannot rely on other people to find you you have to hold yourself accountable for doing the best you can at whatever that thing is. And eventually, if you do that, somebody then will take notice. But we're in this age now where, especially in the studio system, it used to be it's all run by higher ups. There's certain lists of people that can get hired. You had to go to in-person casting auditions to get noticed for anything. We put on lists. And now in this content creator heavy, cheap camera, all of our phones are cameras. There's no excuse not to be making anything. And now to be viable in the industry, you can't just be, I'm a really good actor. I'm a really good editor. You have to be a lot of different things. You have to show, yeah, I make films. I studied this. I do this thing. You have to be good in a lot of departments to put yourself out there so that people really want to work with you. That's what I found anyway. It's like the people who are working the most can handle doing a lot of different things. There used to be that old saying that the whole jack of all trades, master of none. But I think now it's like the jack of all trades is actually what's going to get you the work. So anyway, but if you are passionate about whatever you're doing, money aside, make it happen. It's like that your happiness is going to come as a result of you creating that content. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for that, and thank you for doing this episode. And what would be the best way to reach you? I mean, all the information is going to be in the description, but how do you for people to contact?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Instagram, it's my name. It's Darren Bailey, DarrenBailey 17 at the end. On Twitter, it's Darren_Bailey, and then Facebook.com/actor Darren Bailey. So those are the 3 social media places that I use.
Awesome. And with that, have a great day, everybody, and see you later, Darren.
Thanks, Emmett. Great to see you.
Goodbye.